Chloe Evans was a fraud. Not a malicious, steal your identity kind of fraud, but a professional one. Her business card read, Chloe Evans, Harmonious Spaces and Professional Organization. What the card failed to mention was that Chloe currently had 3 unpaid parking tickets swimming in the terrifying abyss of her own tote bag, and her apartment looked like it had been burgled by heavily caffeinated raccoons. But she was spectacular at organizing other people's lives. Usually. Today's client was Liam Hayes, a tech entrepreneur who lived in a Seattle penthouse so minimalist it echoed when you blinked. Liam was the kind of man who ironed his denim jeans and scheduled his recreational fun in 15-minute calendar blocks. He had hired Chloe because, in his own agonizingly precise words, his home office was suffering from chaotic energy. Chloe stood in the center of the room and stared. There was a sleek glass desk, a silver laptop, and exactly 1 pen. Liam, Chloe said, trying to keep her bright, customer service smile firmly in place. There is absolutely nothing here to organize. It's a sterile void. If I sneezed in here, it would constitute a decorative element. Liam adjusted his glasses. They were perfectly symmetrical, much like his annoyingly handsome face. Look in the closet, Chloe. She slid open the frosted glass doors of the office closet and gasped. It was a secret dimension of pure, unadulterated hoarding. Tangled charger cables, vintage keyboards, empty protein powder tubs, and an alarming collection of aggressively ugly ceramic animal statues were shoved together in precarious floor-to-ceiling piles. My mother sends me a ceramic animal for every single holiday, Liam muttered, refusing to meet her eye. He looked like a man confessing to a heinous, unspeakable crime. I can't throw them away. It feels disrespectful to my mother. But I also can't look at them. I feel like they judge me. Chloe reached in and picked up a ceramic pug with bulging, mismatched painted eyes. It was uniquely hideous. This one looks like it wants to steal my soul. That's Sir Reginald. Easter, 2023. I need you to make it all go away, Chloe. Box it up. Donate it. Just cleanse my space. I have a massive investor pitch tomorrow, and I need absolute zen. Consider it done, Chloe said, slapping her hands together. I will turn this closet into a temple of tranquility. The ceramic zoo is going straight to the Goodwill down the street. Thank you, Liam sighed, running a hand through his immaculately styled hair. Just get rid of the junk. Everything in there. He left her to her work, retreating to the kitchen to undoubtedly measure out his afternoon espresso beans with a digital scale. Chloe cracked her knuckles. She grabbed a heavy-duty trash bag and tossed Sir Reginald the pug inside with a satisfying clunk. She was a professional. She was going to declutter the heck out of this penthouse. She had absolutely no idea that Sir Reginald's hollowed-out belly contained a flash drive holding Liam's life's work. Chapter 1. Chloe Evans was a fraud. Not a malicious, steal your identity kind of fraud, but a professional one. Her business card read, Chloe Evans, Harmonious Spaces and Professional Organization. What the card failed to mention was that Chloe currently had 3 unpaid parking tickets swimming in the terrifying abyss of her own tote bag, and her apartment looked like it had been burgled but she was spectacular at organizing other people's lives. Usually. Today's client was Liam Hayes, a tech entrepreneur who lived in a Seattle penthouse so minimalist it echoed when you blinked. Liam was the kind of man who ironed his denim jeans and scheduled his recreational fun in 15-minute calendar blocks. He had hired Chloe because, in his own agonizingly precise words, his home office was suffering from chaotic energy. Chloe stood in the center of the room and stared. There was a sleek glass desk, a silver laptop, and exactly 1 pen. Liam, Chloe said, trying to keep her bright, customer service smile firmly in place. There is absolutely nothing here to organize. It's a sterile void. If I sneezed in here, it would constitute a decorative element. Liam adjusted his glasses. They were perfectly symmetrical, much like his annoyingly handsome face. Look in the closet, Chloe. She slid open the frosted glass doors of the office closet and gasped. It was a secret dimension of pure, unadulterated hoarding. Tangled charger cables, vintage keyboards, empty protein powder tubs, and an alarming collection of aggressively ugly ceramic animal statues were shoved together in precarious floor-to-ceiling piles. My mother sends me a ceramic animal for every single holiday, Liam muttered, refusing to meet her eye. He looked like a man confessing to a heinous, unspeakable crime. I can't throw them away. It feels disrespectful to my mother. But I also can't look at them. I feel like they judge me. Chloe reached in and picked up a ceramic pug with bulging, mismatched painted eyes. It was uniquely hideous. This one looks like it wants to steal my soul. That's Sir Reginald. Easter, 2023. I need you to make it all go away, Chloe. Box it up. Donate it. Just cleanse my space. I have a massive investor pitch tomorrow, and I need absolute zen. Consider it done, Chloe said, slapping her hands together. I will turn this closet into a temple of tranquility. The ceramic zoo is going straight to the Goodwill down the street. Thank you, Liam sighed, running a hand through his immaculately styled hair. Just get rid of the junk. Everything in there. Do not ask me for permission on individual items. If you ask me, I'll hesitate, and if I hesitate, the ceramic ducks will stay. Ruthless elimination, Chloe promised, offering a crisp salute. It's my specialty. As soon as the heavy oak door clicked shut behind Liam, Chloe cracked her knuckles and got to work. She loved this part of the job. There was something deeply cathartic about purging someone else's baggage. She unfurled 3 heavy-duty, opaque black contractor bags and began the excavation. First went the cables, a tangled, dusty rat king of outdated USB cords and mysterious adapters. Then went the empty boxes for electronics Liam had probably purchased during the Obama administration. Finally, she faced the ceramic menagerie. She picked up Sir Reginald again. The pug's painted tongue lolled sideways, and it felt surprisingly heavy for its size. Probably filled with the trapped souls of previous professional organizers, Chloe mused. She dropped the ugly little dog into the bottom of the black bag with a satisfying thunk, followed quickly by a cross-eyed ceramic owl, a suspiciously lumpy porcelain dolphin, and a pair of ceramic frogs playing the banjo. Within 45 minutes, the closet was completely barren. Chloe wiped down the shelves with a microfiber cloth, stood back, and admired the absolute emptiness. It was a masterpiece of nothingness. Liam was going to be thrilled. She dragged the 3 heavy bags out to the hallway and loaded them onto a brass luggage cart she had sweet-talked out of the building's bewildered concierge. Navigating the elevator and the grand lobby with her trash bag tower was slightly embarrassing, but she held her head high. Her car, parked 3 blocks away, was a stark contrast to Liam's pristine penthouse. Her Honda Civic was a rolling monument to controlled chaos, littered with empty iced latte cups, rogue bobby pins, and a half-finished scarf she had abandoned months ago. She popped the trunk, shoved the empty coffee cups aside, and hauled the heavy bags into the back. The drive to the Secondhand Saviors donation center took less than 10 minutes. Hey there, Chloe called out cheerfully to the teenager manning the loading dock, who was currently entirely absorbed in his phone. 3 bags of assorted electronics and some very unique home decor. Just put 'em in the blue bins, the kid mumbled, not looking up. Truck comes to take it all to the main sorting facility at noon. Chloe checked her watch. It was 11:45 a.m. Perfect timing. She hoisted the bags into the massive, industrial blue rolling bins, dusting her hands off with a profound sense of accomplishment. She climbed back into her chaotic car, completely unaware that she had just donated the sole prototype of a multi-million-dollar algorithm. As she pulled out of the parking lot, mentally drafting her invoice to Liam Hayes, she turned up the radio, feeling like the most successful, organized woman in Seattle. Chapter 2. Chloe was halfway through a celebratory, heavily whipped cream iced latte at a drive-through when her phone began vibrating violently in the cup holder. The caller ID flashed Liam Hayes' client. She swallowed a mouthful of foam, cleared her throat to achieve maximum professional resonance, and tapped the screen. Chloe Evans, Harmonious Spaces. How can I? Where is it? The voice on the other end didn't sound like the icy, composed tech entrepreneur she had left in the penthouse 45 minutes ago. It sounded like a man who was currently watching his house burn down while being chased by hornets. Where is what, Liam? Chloe asked, pulling into a parking spot outside a pharmacy. If you're looking for the vintage ergonomic keyboards, they were heavily yellowed, so they went into the e-waste. The pug? Liam practically shouted. She heard the sound of a glass cabinet door sliding open and slamming shut, followed by heavy, ragged breathing. Where is Sir Reginald? Chloe blinked, staring at her steering wheel. Liam, we talked about this. You said, and I quote, "Get rid of the junk. Do not ask me for permission on individual items." I executed a ruthless elimination. The ceramic zoo has been relocated to a better place. A better place? Did you kill him? Did you smash him? No. I donated him. He's at the Secondhand Saviors drop-off center on 4th Avenue. Honestly, you should be thanking me. Your closet has never looked more zen. A long, agonizing silence stretched over the line. When Liam finally spoke, his voice had dropped an octave into a chilling, hollow whisper. Chloe, I have a meeting tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock with the largest venture capital firm in the Pacific Northwest. I know the big pitch. You're going to do great. Your closet is spotless. I don't care about the closet. Liam's composure completely snapped. My entire proprietary backend API architecture, the complete integration framework that I have spent the last 2 years of my life coding from scratch, is on an encrypted, waterproof, titanium-cased USB drive. Chloe frowned, swirling the ice in her cup. Okay, that sounds very technical and important. Where is it? It's in the dog, Chloe. It's in the hollow abdominal cavity of the ugly ceramic pug. Chloe froze. The iced latte suddenly tasted like ash. Why? Why would you put a multi-million-dollar piece of software inside a hideous fake dog? Because of corporate espionage. Liam yelled, sounding frantic. My last co-founder tried to steal my source code. I couldn't leave the master backup in a safe. That's the first place they look. Who on earth would try to steal Sir Reginald? It was the perfect disguise. Well, congratulations, James Bond, Chloe squeaked, her heart beginning to hammer against her ribs. Your disguise was so perfect that you tricked your own professional organizer into throwing your company into a Goodwill bin. I need you back here, Liam demanded. Right now. We are going to that donation center, and we are getting my API back, or I am going to have a stroke. Okay. Don't panic, Chloe said, putting her car into reverse with shaking hands. I dropped it off less than an hour ago. It's fine. It's completely fine. The kid at the loading dock said the truck doesn't come to take it away until noon. Chloe glanced at the digital clock on her dashboard. It read 12:04 p.m. She swallowed hard. Liam? I'm going to meet you at the donation center. Bring your running shoes. She hung up, slammed her foot on the gas, and peeled out of the parking lot. The Harmonious Spaces business model didn't strictly cover Grand Theft Auto or high-stakes retrieval missions, but Chloe had a feeling she was about to expand her services. Chapter 3. Chloe practically abandoned her Honda Civic in a red zone, jogging toward the loading dock of Secondhand Saviors. Liam was already there. He was pacing furiously back and forth across the cracked concrete, looking like a GQ model who had been accidentally dropped into a gritty urban reboot. He wore a perfectly tailored charcoal suit, a crisp white shirt, and an expression of pure, unadulterated terror. You're late, Liam snapped as she approached, pointing an accusing finger at her. It is 12:14 p.m. My API has been exposed to the elements for exactly 14 minutes. I was driving as fast as legally advisable. Chloe panted, bracing her hands on her knees to catch her breath. She looked past his perfectly polished Italian leather shoes to the loading dock. The massive industrial blue rolling bins were gone. In their place was a vast, terrifying expanse of empty concrete. Where are they? Liam demanded, his voice cracking slightly. He grabbed the edge of a nearby green dumpster, completely disregarding the layer of mysterious grime coating the lid. Did they put the bins inside the dumpster? Liam, don't touch that, you're going to ruin your suit, Chloe said, swatting his hand away. They don't throw donations in the trash. The kid told me a truck comes at noon. So where is the truck, Chloe? She winced. Presumably driving. Liam closed his eyes and took a deep, shuddering breath. My life's work. 2 years of coding, debugging, crying into my keyboard at 3 a.m., and it is currently bouncing around in the back of a box truck next to a pile of moth-eaten sweaters and your discarded bobby pins. My bobby pins are in my car, thank you very much, Chloe muttered. She spotted the apathetic teenager from earlier, who had just emerged from the back door holding a half-eaten sandwich. Excuse me. Hi. Hello again. Chloe waved frantically, sprinting up the loading ramp. Liam followed closely behind her, his long strides easily catching up. The teenager blinked at them slowly. Hey, you the lady with the weird animal statues? Yes, exactly, Chloe said, slapping on her most charming, client-facing smile. Listen, there's been a tiny, teensy little mix-up. I accidentally donated something of extreme sentimental and structural value. The blue bins. Where did they go? truck took him, the kid said, taking a bite of his sandwich. We gathered that, Liam interjected, stepping forward. His tone was sharp, commanding, the exact voice he probably used to intimidate venture capitalists. The kid chewed, staring at Liam's suit. Dude, it's a charity truck, not a Brinks armored car. It goes to the mega sorting facility out in Kent. They dump all the regional bins there on the conveyor belts to sort the trash from the treasure. Liam paled. Conveyor belts? Like an incinerator? No, just like belts. But you gotta be quick, the teenager warned, pointing his sandwich at them. Once they sort it, it gets loaded onto pallets and shipped out to the retail stores by 3 o'clock. Liam looked at his Rolex. It's 12:18. Kent is at least a 30-minute drive with traffic. 20 if I drive, Chloe said, grabbing Liam's immaculately tailored sleeve and pulling him toward the street. Come on. We have a truck to catch. I have my own car, Liam protested, pulling back slightly. It's a Tesla. It has a high-performance pursuit mode. Your Tesla is parked in a secure underground garage 3 blocks away, and we do not have time for you to authenticate your retinal scan or whatever it takes to start it, Chloe argued, dragging him toward her wildly parked Civic. Get in. Liam stared at the Honda. He took in the faded silver paint, the slightly dented rear bumper, and the sheer volume of chaotic clutter visible through the passenger window. I cannot get in that, Liam said, horrified. It looks like a biohazard. It's not a biohazard, it's just heavily lived in, Chloe countered, opening the passenger door and hastily sweeping an armful of yarn, 3 empty iced latte cups, and a rogue tennis shoe into the back seat. Buckle up. And for the love of God, don't touch the radio. Liam swallowed hard, looking back at the empty loading dock, and then at the passenger seat. With the solemn dignity of a man walking to the gallows, the tech billionaire folded his long frame into Chloe's chaotic Civic. Chloe slammed the door, jumped into the driver's seat, and threw the car into drive. The heist to save Sir Reginald had officially begun. Chapter 4. Chloe drove the way she organized. Fast, aggressively, and with a blatant disregard for conventional boundaries. She wove the Honda Civic through the southbound I-5 traffic like she was playing a vintage arcade game, while Liam sat rigid in the passenger seat, one hand white-knuckling the grab handle above his door. The speed limit is 65, Liam pointed out, his voice tight. We are currently doing 82. Speed limits are more like gentle suggestions, Chloe countered, whipping around a slow-moving minivan. Besides, you said your API is on a ticking clock. Do you want to be safe, or do you want Sir Reginald? Liam closed his eyes and opted for silence, likely calculating the actuarial odds of his own demise. 22 harrowing minutes later, they skidded into the gravel parking lot of the Kent Regional Sorting Facility. It was a massive corrugated metal warehouse that hummed with industrial noise and smelled faintly of mothballs and old paperbacks. They jogged up to the main floor entrance. Inside, it was organized chaos. Dozens of conveyor belts crisscrossed the cavernous space, carrying mountains of discarded clothes, books, and household goods. At the center of it all stood a man with a clipboard, a high-visibility yellow vest, and a scowl that suggested he hated everything in the world, but especially people who interrupted him. His name tag read Gary. Hey there, Chloe chirped, sliding into her most disarming, cheerful organizer persona. Gary. Hi. We have a tiny, highly localized emergency. Gary did not look up from his clipboard. We're closed to the public. Retail stores are down the highway. I know, but you see, I accidentally donated my grandmother's ashes, Chloe lied smoothly, her hand flying to her chest in faux devastation. They were inside a ceramic dog. A pug. It was her dying wish to be stored in the pug, and I threw it in a blue bin by mistake. Liam stared at her, his jaw slightly slack at the sheer audacity of the lie. Health department handles human remains, Gary grunted. Now leave. Gary, please, Liam stepped in, his tone shifting from tech CEO to desperate hostage. He reached into his suit jacket and pulled out his wallet. It's not ashes. It's a USB drive containing my entire company's source code. I will give you $300 right now if you let us look at the belts that came in from the Seattle Blue Bins. Gary finally looked up. He eyed the crisp $100 bills Liam had produced, then looked at Liam's impeccably tailored charcoal suit. $300? Gary asked. Cash, Liam confirmed, holding it out. Gary snatched the bills and shoved them into his vest pocket. Lane 4. The Seattle truck dumped 10 minutes ago. If it goes past the red line, it's packed onto pallets and gone. You got 5 minutes before it hits the line. Sign the waiver on the desk, so I don't get sued if you lose a finger." They didn't even read the waiver. They scribbled their names and sprinted toward lane 4. The noise was deafening up close. A massive rubber belt was churning a river of random objects toward a team of sorters at the far end. "Look for the black contractor bags," Chloe yelled over the din. Liam didn't hesitate. The man who had refused to get into Chloe's messy car threw himself bodily against the edge of the dirty conveyor belt. He plunged his arms into the moving tide of stuffed animals, chipped coffee mugs, and tangled sweaters. A cloud of vintage dust immediately plumed up, settling over his pristine white shirt and clinging to his dark jacket. "Is this it?" Liam shouted, hauling up a black plastic bag. He tore it open with feral intensity. "No, it's just old curtains." Chloe was stationed 10 feet down the line, desperately scanning the debris. "I see one. I see a bag." She yanked a heavy bag off the belt. Liam rushed over, his hair now wildly out of place. A smudge of dirt streaked across his cheek. He looked completely unhinged, and Chloe had a sudden, inappropriate thought that he actually looked incredibly handsome this way. She ripped the bag open. Out spilled a tangled mass of vintage yellowed keyboards and USB cables. "It's from your closet," Chloe cheered. "This is the bag." They tore through the pile, tossing aside empty protein powder tubs and rogue wires. But the ceramic zoo was missing. No Frax, no Valfin, and no Sir Reginald. "Where is he?" Liam demanded, grabbing a passing worker in a denim apron. "Where are the ceramics that were in this bag?" The worker, a woman chewing gum with impressive force, raised an eyebrow at the frantic tech billionaire. "The ugly statues? Oh, Brenda pulled those out like 5 minutes ago." "Who is Brenda and where is she?" Liam pleaded. "She's the boutique sorter." The woman pointed a thumb over her shoulder. "Whenever we get quirky, weird stuff, we don't send it to the regular thrift stores. We send it to the Bizarre Bazaar. It's a weekend flea market downtown. Sells for triple the price to hipsters." Chloe's heart sank. Did Brenda already send the truck out? Yep. Boxed him up and threw him on the 1 p.m. transit. Should be arriving at the markets holding tent right about now. Liam let go of the woman, his shoulders slumping. He looked down at his ruined suit, then over at Chloe, who was covered in a fine layer of warehouse grime. "A flea market," Liam muttered, running a dusty hand over his face. "My life's work is going to be sold to a hipster." "Not if we get there first," Chloe said, slapping him encouragingly on his dusty shoulder. "Come on, tech boy. We're going to the bazaar." Chapter 5. The Bizarre Bazaar was less of a market and more of a sensory assault. Set up in a sprawling, open-air plaza beneath the shadow of the Space Needle. It was a maze of white canvas tents overflowing with the weird, the upcycled, and the aggressively vintage. The air smelled of patchouli, roasting nuts, and desperation. Liam stood at the entrance, looking completely utterly horrified. His ruined, dust-streaked charcoal suit and disheveled hair made him look less like a billionaire, and more like a very handsome, very lost bank teller. "This is inefficient," Liam declared, scanning the chaotic layout of the tents. "There are no clear walkways. The foot traffic flow is completely unregulated. How are we supposed to find one specific pug in this menagerie of garbage?" "It's not garbage, it's curated nostalgia," Chloe corrected, grabbing his elbow and pulling him into the throng of people. "And we find him by blending in. If you look too desperate, these vendors will smell blood in the water and triple the price. We browse, we casually locate the ceramics, and we strike." "I don't browse," Liam muttered, sidestepping a man wearing a top hat who was aggressively juggling flaming bowling pins. "I execute targeted acquisitions. We need to implement a grid search protocol. We'll take the North Quadrant." "Liam, there are no quadrants. Look at this place," Chloe laughed, gesturing to a booth selling taxidermy mice dressed in tiny Victorian outfits. "It's purely vibes-based. You have to follow the chaos." "I actively reject the chaos," he said, though he didn't let go of her arm as they navigated through a particularly dense crowd of teenagers buying vintage band tees. "Chaos is the reason my multi-million-dollar prototype is currently disguised as a flea market trinket." "Hey," Chloe said, pausing and turning to face him. She pointed a firm finger at his chest. "We are in this together now. I dragged your junk out of the apartment, Yes, but you are the one who hid a technological masterpiece inside an aesthetically offensive dog. We share the blame. So, trust my process. Liam looked down at her. His jaw tightened, but a reluctant sigh escaped his lips. The rigid, icy exterior of the man she had met that morning was completely gone, replaced by something much more human, and admittedly, much more appealing. Fine. Lead the way, harmonious spaces. They wove through the market. Chloe led them past a booth selling jewelry made from repurposed typewriter keys, and another offering aura cleansings that involved a woman waving a large bunch of burning sage dangerously close to Liam's face. He coughed, glaring at the woman with murderous intent, but let Chloe drag him onward. You know, for someone whose entire business model is about order and cleanliness, you navigate this mess surprisingly well, Liam noted, brushing ash off his lapel. My business is about giving people peace, Chloe corrected, dodging a rack of heavily sequined jackets. My own brain is pretty noisy. I thrive in places like this. It makes my internal mess feel normal. Liam tilted his head, studying her with a sharp, calculating gaze that made her stomach do a sudden, unexpected flip. You don't strike me as a messy person. You haven't seen my apartment. Or my taxes, Chloe admitted, laughing nervously. I organize other people because I can't organize myself. It's classic projection. Well, Liam said softly, you organized my closet with alarming efficiency. Before Chloe could figure out if that was a compliment or an insult, she spotted it. 3 tenths down, beneath a banner that read ironic nostalgia and kitsch, sat a display of violently ugly ceramics. There were the banjo-playing frogs. There was the cross-eyed owl. And sitting majestically in the center, next to a velvet painting of a sad clown, was Sir Reginald. Bingo, Chloe whispered, grabbing Liam's hand without thinking. Liam's fingers instinctively curled around hers, his grip tight and warm. He saw the pug, and all the breath rushed out of his lungs in a sharp hiss. He's there. He's actually there. Play it cool, Chloe warned, releasing his hand to step up to the booth. The vendor was a guy in his early 20s wearing oversized overalls and a beanie, entirely engrossed in a portable retro gaming console. Chloe picked up a hideously lumpy porcelain dolphin and feigned interest. Wow, these are so unique. Are they all from the same artist? The vendor didn't look up from his game. Yeah, I dunno. Came in from the sorting facility an hour ago. $10 each. $10. Liam's eyes widened, and he immediately reached for his wallet. This was it. The nightmare was over. He was going to hand the kid a 20, take his pug, and go home to his sterile, quiet void. Liam stepped forward, his hand hovering over Sir Reginald's ceramic head. I'll take the dog. Oh, absolutely brilliant. I must have it. A booming theatrical voice interrupted from behind them. A man in a vibrant magenta silk suit, sporting a perfectly waxed handlebar mustache, shoved his way past Liam. He scooped Sir Reginald up into his manicured hands, holding the ugly dog aloft as if he had just discovered the Holy Grail. The juxtaposition of the grotesque anatomy with the mundane subject matter, the man declared, his eyes shining with manic glee. It's a devastating critique of modern consumerism. It's outsider art at its absolute finest. Liam froze, his wallet half open. Excuse me, I was just about to purchase that. The man in the magenta suit sneered, looking Liam up and down, taking in the dirty clothes and desperate expression. I think not, my good fellow. I saw it first. And as Julian Vance, preeminent collector of the absurd, I claim it. He slapped a crisp $50 bill onto the vendor's table. Keep the change, my boy. Before Liam or Chloe could utter a single word, Julian Vance tucked the multi-million-dollar ceramic pug under his arm and marched away into the crowd. Chapter 6. For a terrifying, suspended second, Liam simply stopped functioning. His brain, usually capable of processing millions of data points a second, blue-screened. He watched the magenta-suited man waltz away with his proprietary API tucked under his arm, and Liam physically short-circuited. Hey, Liam suddenly bellowed, his voice cracking in a way that was entirely un-billionaire-like. He surged forward, pushing past a rack of upcycled flannel shirts. Hey, sir. Mustahaman. Stop. Chloe darted after him, apologizing to the hipsters they bumped into along the way. Liam, wait. You can't just tackle him in the middle of a flea market. Watch me, Liam snarled, though he was hindered by his leather dress shoes slipping on the cobblestones. They caught up to Julian Vance near the exit of the plaza, just as the eccentric collector was admiring his new prize in the sunlight. He was tracing the pug's bulging ceramic eyes with a reverent finger. "Excuse me," Liam gasped, out of breath and planting himself squarely in front of Vance. He held up a hand, trying to project an aura of calm authority, despite the warehouse dirt smeared across his forehead. "There has been a terrible mistake. That dog belongs to me." Julian Vance blinked, clutching Sir Reginald closer to his magenta silk chest. "I assure you it does not. I purchased this magnificent atrocity legally from that tragically bored youth in the beanie." "I will give you $100 for it," Liam said, reaching for his wallet again. Vance scoffed, a sound that originated deep in his throat and sounded entirely pretentious. $100? For a masterpiece of outsider art? You insult me, sir. You insult the artist's bold commentary on canine domesticity. It's not a commentary. It's a mass-produced piece of garbage my mother bought at a garden center in 2023. Liam shouted, his composure fraying by the second. $500. Right now. Cash. Vance's mustache twitched indignantly. Money cannot buy the visceral emotional reaction this piece evokes. Look at its hideous, asymmetrical face. It represents the agony of the modern soul. It represents my impending bankruptcy. Liam shot back. $1,000. Julian, please. I am begging you. That dog is. It holds deep sentimental value to my family. Chloe stepped in, putting a gentle hand on Liam's arm and giving Vance her most persuasive, empathetic organizer smile. Mr. Vance, hi. I'm Chloe. What my fiancé is trying to say. Liam's head snapped toward her so fast he nearly gave himself whiplash. Fiancé, he mouthed. Chloe stepped on his foot. What my fiancé is trying to say is that this ceramic pug was a beloved heirloom. It belonged to his late, deeply eccentric great-aunt. We accidentally donated it during a traumatic decluttering phase. We've been chasing it all over Seattle. Have a heart. Name your price. Vance looked at Chloe, then at Liam, before his gaze settled lovingly back on the grotesque ceramic dog. Atau king tale. Vance murmured dramatically. A tale of loss, of regret, of the relentless march of time. But alas, he struck a theatrical pose. Art belongs to the world. Or more specifically, it belongs to me. I cannot part with it. It is the centerpiece of my new collection. A sleek, vintage silver Rolls-Royce pulled up to the curb behind Vance, the driver popping out to open the rear door. Wait, Liam pleaded, lunging forward, but the chauffeur deftly stepped between them. If you wish to gaze upon its tragic beauty once more, you are welcome to attempt entry at my private exhibition tonight, Vance announced, sliding into the luxurious leather back seat with Sir Reginald sitting regally on his lap. The Vanguard Gala. Only the city's true visionaries will be in attendance. Tate. The heavy door clicked shut, and the Rolls-Royce glided silently away from the curb, merging into the Seattle traffic. Liam stood on the sidewalk, his hands resting on his hips, staring at the taillights. The wind ruffled his messy hair. He looked completely and utterly defeated. Well, Chloe said softly, the chaotic energy of the flea market swirling around them. On the bright side, we know exactly where it is. Liam turned to her. His eyes were wide, panicked, and exhausted. Chloe, I don't think I can take much more of your organizing. Chapter 7. The adrenaline of the chase wore off exactly 3 blocks away from the flea market, leaving behind a profound, hollow exhaustion. It started to drizzle, a classic, misty Seattle rain that felt like a personal insult to their already disastrous afternoon. Wordlessly, Chloe grabbed Liam's sleeve and towed him into a dimly lit, bohemian cafe that smelled strongly of roasting espresso and damp wool. They collapsed into a velvet booth in the back corner. Chloe ordered a massive, chaotic pastry covered in toasted almonds and a vanilla latte with extra foam. Liam, staring blankly at the scarred wooden table, ordered a double espresso, black. When the drinks arrived, Liam picked up his tiny ceramic cup and looked at it with deep suspicion, as if he expected it to contain another hidden flash drive. I'm sorry, Chloe said softly, breaking the heavy silence. She picked a flake of almond off her pastry. For the record, I usually only ruin people's lives in small, manageable ways. Misplacing a favorite sweater. Accidentally throwing away a grocery receipt. This is a personal best for me. Liam let out a breath that was half sigh, half laugh. It was a rough, rusty sound, You didn't know. I put a proprietary algorithm inside a ceramic dog. If we're assigning blame, the lion's share is sitting right here. He took a sip of his espresso and winced. What does it actually do? Chloe asked, leaning forward, resting her chin on her hand. The app. You said it was your life's work. You already have a massive tech company. What makes this one so special that you had to go full mission? Impossible with it. Liam traced the rim of his cup with a long, elegant finger. The rigid posture he had maintained all morning had melted away. Without the pristine suit and the icy CEO persona, he just looked like a tired, passionate guy. My main company builds back-end logistics for corporate shipping, Liam explained quietly. It's lucrative. It's highly efficient. And it is incredibly soul-crushingly boring. Chloe smiled. Sounds thrilling. It pays the bills, Liam said, his mouth twitching into a reluctant smile. But the prototype on that drive, it's different. It's a localized, mesh network communication tool for disaster relief. It allows first responders to build instant communication grids in areas where cell towers have been wiped out by earthquakes or hurricanes. Chloe stopped chewing her pastry. Wait, you built an app to save lives in disaster zones? Liam looked down, suddenly looking bashful. Yes. And your business partner wanted to sell the underlying architecture to a private military contractor for a massive payout, Liam finished, his jaw tightening. I refused. He threatened to lock me out of the company's servers and seize the IP. That's why I downloaded the only complete, debugged master copy onto an encrypted drive and wiped the servers. I was pitching it to a philanthropic venture fund tomorrow morning. If I get their backing, I can legally spin the project off into its own non-profit entity. If I don't, your partner gets his hands on it, Chloe realized, horrified. Liam, that's amazing. And terrible. But mostly amazing. You're secretly a superhero. I am currently a superhero without his cape, sitting in a damp cafe with dirt on my face, he corrected drily. Well, you're not the only one hiding things, Chloe blurted out. The intimacy of the little booth, combined with his vulnerability, made her own secrets bubble to the surface. You know how I said my apartment is messy? You implied it looked like a raccoon burglary, yes? Right. Well, it's not just my apartment. It's my whole life, Chloe confessed, wrapping both hands around her warm mug. Harmonious Spaces is drowning. I have negative $300 in my business account. I'm 3 months behind on my car payments. I organize other people's perfect, sterile lives because it gives me a false sense of control over my own disaster. She braced herself for the judgment. For the icy, hyper-organized CEO to look at her with pity or disdain. Instead, Liam looked at her intently. His dark eyes were warm, and for the first time all day, he looked genuinely relaxed. You faked a tragic backstory about a dead great-aunt to a deranged millionaire without missing a single beat, Liam said softly. You got a grumpy warehouse manager to let us search an active industrial sorting belt. You operate beautifully in the chaos, Chloe. You might be messy, but you aren't a disaster. Chloe's heart did a strange, syncopated flutter. Thanks, tech boy. And speaking of deranged millionaires, Liam said, straightening up, a new spark of determination lighting up his eyes. Julian Vance mentioned a private exhibition tonight. The Vanguard Gala. Invite only, Chloe reminded him, taking a sip of her latte. Only the city's true visionaries. Liam raised an eyebrow, a slow, dangerous smirk spreading across his face. It was an incredibly good look on him. Well, it is a very good thing my new fiancé is engaged to a billionaire visionary. Chloe choked slightly on her foam, her eyes widening. We're crashing the gala. We are crashing the gala, Liam confirmed, finishing his espresso and setting the cup down with a definitive clack. I need a tuxedo. You need a gown. And we need to go steal my dog. Chapter 8. The transformation from dumpster diving fugitives to high society elites took exactly 4 hours and an amount of money on Liam's matte black American Express card that made Chloe slightly dizzy. They retrieved Liam's Tesla from the underground garage. A vehicle that smelled of expensive leather and completely lacked iced latte cups, and sped to a high-end boutique in downtown Seattle. Liam had made one phone call, and the store closed its doors to the public for a private fitting. Now, standing in front of a gilded floor-to-ceiling mirror, Chloe barely recognized herself. She was wearing an emerald green silk gown that draped flawlessly over her curves. featuring a daringly low back and a thigh-high slit. Her chaotic hair had been wrestled into an elegant, sweeping updo by a frantic but talented stylist, and a pair of diamond drop earrings brushed her collarbones. "Okay," Chloe whispered to her reflection. "You look less like a fraud and more like a woman who could convincingly ruin a man's life." A soft knock on the dressing room door preceded Liam's entrance. Chloe turned around, and her breath caught in her throat. If Liam was handsome in a dusty, ruined suit, he was utterly devastating in a perfectly tailored black tuxedo. It fit him with dangerous precision. He looked like James Bond, if James Bond occasionally cried over broken code at 3 a.m. Liam stopped dead in his tracks. His eyes swept over her, starting from the strappy silver heels, trailing up the emerald silk, and finally landing on her face. He didn't say anything for a long, agonizing moment. The silence in the boutique felt thick enough to cut with a knife. "Is it too much?" Chloe asked, suddenly self-conscious, her hand fluttering to her neck. "I know I usually give off frazzled substitute teacher energy, so this is a leap." "You look stunning," Liam interrupted, his voice dropping into a quiet, raspy register that sent a shiver straight down her spine. "Absolutely stunning, Chloe." A furious blush crept up her neck. "You don't look too bad yourself, tech boy." "We have a slight problem," Liam murmured, closing the distance between them. He reached into his tuxedo jacket pocket and pulled out a velvet box. "If you are going to be my fiancé, you need the requisite hardware. A tech CEO wouldn't propose with anything less than a distraction." He popped the box open. Nestled in the black velvet was a diamond ring, so large it probably had its own gravitational pull. "Liam," Chloe gasped. "Did you buy that?" "Rented," he assured her with a wink. "But I did pay for the insurance policy, so try not to drop it in a dumpster." He gently took her left hand. His fingers were warm against her skin. Slowly, deliberately, he slid the ring onto her finger. The weight of it was shocking, but nowhere near as shocking as the sudden, intense urge Chloe felt to lean in and kiss him. "Showtime," Liam whispered, clearing his throat and taking a small step back, though his eyes never left hers. 30 minutes later, the Tesla glided up the winding, meticulously manicured driveway of Julian Vance's sprawling estate in Medina. The mansion looked less like a home and more like a modern art museum. All sharp angles, glass walls, and harsh architectural lighting. A line of luxury cars was waiting at the valet station. When it was their turn, Liam handed the keys to the valet and offered his arm to Chloe. She looped her arm through his, leaning into his side. At the massive steel front doors, a security guard built like a commercial refrigerator stood holding an iPad. "Name," the guard grunted. "Liam Hayes and fiancé," Liam said, his voice dripping with bored, billionaire arrogance. It was a terrifyingly good performance. The guard tapped the screen, frowning. "I don't see a Hayes on the guest list." "Refresh your cache, my man," Liam sighed, looking at his watch as if the guard were stealing precious seconds of his life. "Julian specifically invited me this afternoon. He said he had acquired a piece of visceral emotional architecture and begged for my thoughts on its valuation. If I'm not on the list, his assistant is about to be fired. Do you want me to call Julian down here to sort this out, or can we go get a drink?" The guard hesitated, looking at Liam's impeccable tuxedo, and then at the blinding diamond on Chloe's finger. He wilted under the combined weight of their manufactured wealth. "My apologies, Mr. Hayes. Go right on in." The heavy steel doors swung open, revealing a cavernous, aggressively modern foyer packed with Seattle's elite. Waiters drifted through the crowd carrying trays of champagne, and a string quartet was playing a mournful, avant-garde rendition of a pop song in the corner. Chloe leaned up on her tiptoes, her lips brushing Liam's ear. "That was incredibly hot." Liam chuckled, a low vibration against her side. "Don't let it go to your head, darling. Now keep smiling, drink some champagne, and let's go find our dog." Chapter 9. The interior of Julian Vance's mansion was a monument to pretentious wealth. The walls were painted a stark, blinding white, serving as the backdrop for art pieces that looked less like masterpieces and more like construction site accidents. In the center of the main ballroom sat a crushed 1990s sedan with a neon sign flashing the word ANGSD repeatedly above its crumpled hood. "I feel like I'm inside a very expensive migraine," Chloe whispered, accepting 2 flutes of champagne from a passing waiter and handing one to Liam. "Keep your voice down, or someone will try to bid on your commentary," Liam murmured back, taking a sip. His eyes darted around the room, mapping the exits and security cameras with the cold calculation of a tech CEO analyzing a server farm. Okay, the public displays are out here. But a guy like Vance doesn't put his newest, most prized acquisitions next to the hors d'oeuvres. He'll keep the pug in a private study or a master gallery upstairs. So divide and conquer, Chloe said. She took a fortifying gulp of champagne. I'll slip upstairs and do what I do best, snoop through other people's closets. You stay here and create a distraction. If Vance spots you, you have to keep him occupied. Me? Distract a lunatic art collector? Liam looked horrified. Chloe, I write code. My idea of a distraction is running a background diagnostic. I don't know anything about modern art. Just use tech buzzwords and look mildly disgusted by everything, she advised, giving his arm a reassuring squeeze. You're a billionaire. They expect you to be weird. Trust me, you'll be great. Before he could argue, a booming voice echoed over the string quartet. The persistent young man from the flea market. Julian Vance, now wearing a velvet smoking jacket the color of a bruised plum, was cutting through the crowd toward them. He looked gleeful, like a cat who had just Go, Liam hissed under his breath. Find the dog. Chloe smoothly detached herself from Liam's side, blending into a group of women draped in diamonds who were passionately debating the emotional resonance of a large black square painted on a canvas. Liam squared his shoulders, turning to face Vance with a look of supreme, bored confidence. Julian, a pleasure to finally see your curated chaos in its natural habitat. Vance narrowed his eyes, swirling a snifter of brandy. I must admit, Mr. Hayes, I didn't expect to see you here. I imagine a man of your sterile, technological sensibilities finds true art to be quite baffling. Not at all, Liam countered smoothly, channeling every ounce of his boardroom arrogance. He gestured casually toward a sculpture that appeared to be made entirely of melted Barbie dolls and rusty nails. Take this piece, for example. The rudimentary structural integrity speaks to the fragmented user experience of modern society. It's highly disruptive, a truly scalable metaphor. Several wealthy patrons standing nearby stopped talking and leaned in, nodding sagely at Liam's absolute nonsense. Vance blinked, clearly caught off guard. Yes. Scalable. Quite. Though, Liam added, stepping closer to the melted Barbies and lowering his voice so the crowd had to strain to hear him. I find the bandwidth of its emotional output somewhat throttled by the derivative use of the nails. It lacks synergy. A murmur of agreement rippled through the gathering crowd. Vance looked panicked, suddenly terrified that his prized collection was being outsnobbed by a Silicon Valley tech bro. While Liam was busy revolutionizing art criticism via corporate jargon, Chloe was making her move. She slipped behind a massive, abstract ice sculpture of a weeping swan, and found what she was looking for. A sleek, floating glass staircase leading to the private second floor, guarded by a single velvet rope. She waited until a waiter dropped a tray of crab puffs on the other side of the room. As heads turned toward the crash, Chloe unhooked the velvet rope, glided up the glass steps with practiced, stealthy grace, and hooked it back into place behind her. The second floor was deathly quiet. Thick, plush carpet swallowed the sound of her silver heels. A long hallway stretched before her, lined with heavy oak doors. Okay, Vance, Chloe muttered to herself. Where do you keep your ugly treasures? She opened the first door. A guest bedroom. The second door. A ridiculously lavish bathroom featuring a golden bidet. The third door was locked. Chloe grinned. Locked doors were practically an invitation. She reached into her emerald silk gown, thankful that she had insisted the tailor add a hidden pocket, and retrieved a single bobby pin. Harmonious spaces required a variety of skills, including rescuing clients' passports from locked antique roll-top desks. It took her exactly 14 seconds to pick the simple tumbler lock. The door clicked open. Chloe slipped inside, closing the door softly behind her. The room was dark, illuminated only by moonlight filtering through a massive skylight. She reached out, found a dimmer switch, and slid it up just enough to see. It was Vance's private study, and it was a shrine to the bizarre. Glass display cases lined the walls, holding shrunken heads, vintage medical equipment, and taxidermy animals frozen in unnatural poses. And there, sitting in the center of the room on a spotlit mahogany pedestal, resting on a velvet pillow like a crown jewel, was Sir Reginald. The ceramic pug's mismatched painted eyes seemed to stare straight into her soul. Gotcha, Chloe breathed, She crossed the room quickly. She reached out and grabbed the ugly ceramic dog. The moment its weight lifted off the velvet pillow, a sharp, mechanized click echoed through the silent study. The pedestal wasn't just a display. It was a pressure plate. Instantly, the room was bathed in pulsing, blinding red light, and a deafening siren began to shriek, echoing through the halls of the mansion. Chapter 10. The siren didn't just ring. It vibrated in Chloe's teeth. The pulsing red lights turned the bizarre, taxidermy-filled study into a strobe-lit nightmare. Well, that's not ideal. Chloe yelled to herself over the deafening wail. She tucked Sir Reginald securely under her arm, the cold ceramic pressing against the silk of her emerald gown, and bolted. She flew out of the study, sprinting down the plush hallway as fast as her strappy silver heels would allow. Downstairs in the main ballroom, the avant-garde string quartet screeched to a halt. The crowd of elites gasped as the red security lights began flashing against the stark white walls. Julian Vance dropped his snifter of brandy. My private collection. The Vanguard vault has been breached. Liam didn't hesitate. The moment the alarm sounded, he knew exactly who was responsible. He abandoned a half-finished sentence about blockchain-integrated sculptural aesthetics and shoved his way through the bewildered crowd of millionaires. He reached the bottom of the floating glass staircase just as Chloe came flying down it, looking like a heavily armed Disney princess. She was clutching the hideous ceramic pug to her chest, her elegant updo now coming loose in wild tendrils around her face. Did you get it? Liam shouted over the alarm. I got it. But Vance has booby traps like Indiana Jones. Chloe yelled back, leaping off the final 3 steps and landing gracefully next to him. Thieves! Vance shrieked from across the ballroom, his magenta smoking jacket flapping as he pointed a trembling finger at them. They are stealing the agony of the modern soul. Security! Seize them! The bodyguard built like a commercial refrigerator. The same one who had let them in, stepped out from behind an ice sculpture, cracking his knuckles. 2 more guards materialized from the kitchen corridors, dressed in matching black suits and earpieces. Out the back! Liam ordered. He grabbed Chloe's free hand, and together they sprinted toward the massive French doors that led to the estate's sprawling gardens. Liam kicked the doors open with a highly satisfying crash, shattering the illusion of his stuffy tech bro persona completely, and they burst out into the cool, misty Seattle night. The gardens were a labyrinth of perfectly manicured hedges, marble fountains, and gravel pathways. Unfortunately, gravel and stilettos were a catastrophic combination. I can't run in these. Chloe gasped, stumbling as her heels sank into the wet dirt. She kicked the silver shoes off without breaking stride, continuing barefoot across the freezing, damp grass. Stop right there! A guard bellowed from behind them. Heavy footsteps pounded against the gravel, closing in fast. They darted around a massive marble fountain featuring a cherub pouring water from a jug. Liam glanced over his shoulder. The 3 guards were fanning out, trying to flank them across the great lawn. They're gaining on us, Liam warned, his tuxedo jacket flapping in the wind. We need to get to the perimeter wall. It leads down to the beach access road where we can hail a cab or loop back for the car. I can't run fast enough holding this thing. It weighs like 10 pounds. Chloe panted, struggling to keep a grip on Sir Reginald's slippery ceramic torso. Throw him to me, Liam shouted, running a few paces ahead. Chloe didn't think twice. She hauled the pug back and lobbed it through the misty air like a terrifying, ugly football. Liam spun around, his eyes going wide as the multi-million-dollar prototype flew toward his face. He caught it against his chest with a heavy thud, stumbling backward but keeping his grip tight. Touchdown! Chloe cheered breathlessly, sprinting past him. Do not encourage the destruction of my company's intellectual property, Liam yelled, chasing after her. They dodged through a meticulously pruned topiary garden shaped like mythical beasts. A guard lunged from behind a leafy griffin, grabbing the sleeve of Liam's tuxedo. Hey! Liam snapped, ripping his arm away. The fabric tore with a loud rip, ruining the thousands of dollars rental. Liam, pass it back! Chloe yelled from the other side of a hedge maze entrance. Liam chucked the ceramic dog over the top of the hedge. Chloe scrambled to catch it, nearly bobbling it before hugging the bulging-eyed pug tight against her stomach. The guard, thoroughly confused by the flying ceramic animal, hesitated just long enough for Liam to shove past him and catch up to Chloe. There's the wall. Liam pointed. A 6-foot stone wall bordered the back of the property. I need 2 hands to climb. Chloe yelled. "Take the dog." She shoved Sir Reginald into Liam's hands. Chloe leaped up, grabbing the top of the stone wall, and hoisted herself over with surprising agility, dropping out of sight. The guards were 10 yards away and closing. Liam looked at the wall, looked at the heavy ceramic dog, and realized he couldn't climb while holding it. "Chloe, catch!" Liam bellowed. He hurled Sir Reginald blindly over the stone wall. A second later he heard a squeak, followed by a thud. "Got him!" Chloe's muffled voice called from the other side. Liam scrambled up the rough stone, vaulting himself over the top just as the refrigerator-sized guard crashed into the base of the wall behind him. Liam landed in the soft, muddy sand of the beach access road, rolling once before popping up onto his feet. Chloe was sitting in the dirt a few feet away, clutching the pug, her emerald dress ruined by mud and her hair a chaotic disaster. Liam looked at her. He looked at the ugly, cross-eyed dog sitting safely in her lap. And then, completely against his own will, the rigid, highly controlled tech billionaire threw his head back and let out a booming, breathless laugh. Chapter 11. The sound of Liam Hayes, a man who scheduled his deep breathing exercises on a calendar, laughing uncontrollably on a muddy beach road was deeply infectious. Chloe started laughing too, resting her forehead against Sir Reginald's cold, ceramic ears as her shoulders shook. "We just robbed a mansion," Chloe giggled, wiping a smudge of wet dirt off her cheek. "I am a professional organizer, and I just executed a high-stakes art heist." "Technically, it was a recovery operation," Liam corrected, pushing himself up off the sand and offering her a hand. He looked down at his ruined tuxedo. The jacket was torn at the shoulder, the bow tie was hanging on by a thread, and his pristine trousers were caked in mud. He had never looked better. "Though I don't think my legal team would appreciate the nuance." Chloe took his hand, letting him pull her up. Her bare feet were freezing against the damp pavement. "How are we getting out of here? The guards are probably calling the police, and your car is at the valet." Liam pulled his phone out of his pocket. Miraculously, the screen wasn't cracked. "The perks of over-engineering your vehicle," he said, tapping a few buttons on an app. "I just activated the autonomous summon feature. It's navigating away from the valet and driving itself to our GPS pin. It should be here in approximately 90 seconds. Chloe stared at him. "You just whistled for your car like it's a horse?" "A very expensive electric horse, yes." True to his word, a minute and a half later, the sleek black Tesla rolled silently around the curve of the access road, its headlights cutting through the coastal mist. It glided to a halt right in front of them, the hazard lights blinking a silent greeting. Liam opened the passenger door for her. Chloe hesitated, looking down at her mud-caked legs and the dripping hem of her ruined emerald gown. "Liam, your car is immaculate. I'm going to ruin the leather." "Chloe," Liam said softly, stepping closer. The amusement in his eyes was gone, replaced by something much warmer and far more intense. "Today you shoved me into a biohazard of a Honda Civic, forced me to bribe a sanitation worker, and fought off private security to save my life's work. I do not care about the leather." She swallowed hard, her pulse picking up a frantic new rhythm that had absolutely nothing to do with running from security guards. She slid into the passenger seat, carefully placing the hideous ceramic pug on the expansive, flat dashboard in front of her. Liam climbed into the driver's seat and locked the doors, throwing the car into drive. As they pulled away from the Medina coastline, the silence in the cabin stretched out, heavy and thick. The adrenaline that had fueled them for the last 8 hours was rapidly draining away, leaving behind a profound, electric tension. Chloe looked over at him. The dashboard lights illuminated the sharp line of his jaw and the messy, wind-blown state of his usually perfect hair. "You did good today, tech boy," she murmured, pulling her knees up to her chest to get her freezing feet off the floorboard. Liam glanced at her at a red light. Without a word, he reached over and cranked the passenger side seat heater up to the maximum setting. "You didn't do so badly yourself, harmonious spaces." He pulled the car onto a quiet, tree-lined scenic overlook facing the Seattle skyline, and put it in park. He turned in his seat to face her. "I mean it," Liam said, his voice dropping into that raspy, quiet register that made Chloe's brain short-circuit. "I would have lost everything today if it wasn't for you. I know I'm rigid. I know I need things to be exactly in their place. But today, the most out-of-place thing in my life saved me." Chloe's breath hitched. "I didn't exactly save you. I'm the one who threw the dog away." "And you're the one who got him back," Liam countered, reaching across the center console. His fingers gently brushed a stray, muddy curl out of her face, tucking it behind her ear. His touch was electric. Chloe leaned into his hand instinctively, her eyes fluttering shut for a fraction of a second. When she opened them, Liam was leaning closer, his gaze dropping to her lips. "Are you going to organize my life forever, Chloe Evans?" he whispered. "I might just ruin it," she breathed. "Take the risk," he murmured, and then he closed the distance. The kiss started slow, a gentle, hesitant testing of the waters, but the moment their lips met, the spark ignited into a full-blown inferno. Liam's hand moved to the back of her neck, pulling her closer, and Chloe tangled her hands in the lapels of his ruined tuxedo jacket. It was a kiss fueled by adrenaline, exhaustion, and the sudden, overwhelming realization that she was completely crazy about this uptight billionaire. Chloe shifted her weight, leaning fully across the center console to get closer to him, dragging her knee up. Crack! Chloe's knee slammed into the dashboard. Sir Reginald, who had been sitting precariously on the sleek, sloping edge, went airborne. The ceramic dog hit the hard plastic of the center console and exploded into 100 jagged pieces. Chloe and Liam broke apart instantly, gasping in shock as shards of ugly ceramic rained down on their shoes. "Oh my God!" Chloe shrieked, staring at the debris. "Liam, I am so sorry. I didn't mean to." "Wait," Liam said, his voice breathless. He reached down into the footwell, sifting through the broken fragments of Sir Reginald's hollow stomach. When he pulled his hand back up, he was holding a small, waterproof, titanium-cased USB drive. It was completely untouched, gleaming in the streetlights. Liam looked at the flash drive. Then he looked at the shattered remains of the world's ugliest pug. Finally, he looked at Chloe, whose hands were clamped over her mouth in horror. A slow, brilliant smile spread across Liam's face. "Well," Liam said, tossing the USB drive lightly in the air and catching it. "I suppose that's one way to ruthlessly eliminate the clutter." Chapter 12. The morning after the most chaotic 24 hours of her life, Chloe sat on the floor of her apartment, staring at a half-eaten box of cereal and a stack of unpaid bills. Her apartment was exactly the disaster she had described to Liam. There were colorful skeins of yarn tangled on the sofa, 3 different half-empty coffee cups on the coffee table, and a pile of mail that threatened to avalanche at any moment. Usually, the mess just felt like background noise. Today, it felt like a glaring neon sign pointing out every way she didn't fit into Liam Hayes' world. She kept touching her lips, replaying the kiss in the Tesla over and over. It had been perfect. But then the sun had come up. Reality had set in. And Liam had to go save his company. He had texted her at 8 a.m., heading into the pitch. "Thank you for everything. I'll call you the second it's over." Chloe decided she couldn't just sit around and wait. She needed to do something professional to regain her footing. She drafted her final invoice for decluttering services and extracurricular retrieval, printed it out, and decided to hand-deliver it to Liam's corporate office downtown. It was an excuse to see him, to find out if the magic from the car had survived the night. The headquarters of Hayes Logistics was a towering monolith of glass and steel. The lobby was aggressively minimalist, featuring a single, miserable-looking fern and a receptionist who looked like an android. Chloe, wearing her most professional, and least mud-stained, blazer, managed to talk her way up to the executive floor, claiming she was a vendor delivering critical documents. When the elevator doors dinged open, she stepped into a sleek, bustling bullpen of programmers and executives. She spotted a glass-walled conference room at the far end. Inside, Liam was standing in front of a whiteboard, gesturing passionately as a table full of serious-looking investors nodded along. Even from a distance, he looked brilliant. "Can I help you?" a sharp voice interrupted. Chloe turned to find a man in a sharp, slate-gray suit eyeing her with blatant disdain. He had the slick, overly polished look of a corporate shark. Evans. "I'm here to drop off an invoice for Liam," she said, holding up the manila envelope. The man's eyes narrowed, and then a cruel, recognizing smirk spread across his face. "Ah, the professional organizer. I'm Marcus, Liam's soon-to-be ex-partner." Chloe's spine stiffened. This was the guy who had tried to steal the disaster relief code to sell to military contractors. Right. Well, I'll just leave this with his assistant. He really pulled it off, didn't he? Marcus chuckled softly, stepping into her path. He glanced toward the conference room. "I have to admit, when I heard the master drive was missing, I thought I had him cornered. But Liam is nothing if not ruthless when it comes to getting what he wants. He didn't do anything ruthless, Chloe defended hotly. He built that code to help people. Oh please, Marcus scoffed, adjusting his cuffs. Liam Hayes doesn't do anything that doesn't benefit Liam Hayes. He optimizes everything. His schedule, his diet, his relationships. You don't actually think he dragged you all over the city yesterday for your sparkling personality, do you? Chloe felt a cold knot form in her stomach. We were fixing a mistake. He was using the only resource that knew the location of his intellectual property, Marcus corrected smoothly, his voice dripping with condescension. He looked Chloe up and down, taking in her slightly frazzled hair, and the fact that her blazer was missing a button. Look around, sweetheart. Liam's world is flawless. Sterile. Perfect. Do you really think a guy who irons his jeans wants a chaotic mess in his life? He played the part of the charming, bumbling romantic to keep you motivated. Now that he has his flash drive back, he doesn't need the organizer anymore. Chloe wanted to argue. She wanted to tell Marcus about the kiss, about the way Liam had laughed on the beach, about how he had looked at her in the car. But as she looked around the hyper-organized, sterile executive floor, her own deep-seated insecurities flared up. She remembered her chaotic Honda Civic. She remembered the unpaid parking tickets in her bag. She was a fraud who couldn't even manage her own life. Why would a brilliant billionaire want to keep her around once the crisis was over? I am a biohazard, she thought miserably. He was just running a localized retrieval operation. The conference room doors swung open, and the investors filed out, shaking Liam's hand with wide smiles. The pitch had been a massive success. Liam turned, his eyes scanning the floor. When he spotted Chloe standing near the elevators, his face immediately lit up. Chloe panicked. She couldn't face him, not with Marcus's poisonous words echoing in her head, validating every fear she had about herself. She shoved the manila envelope into Marcus's chest. Give this to his assistant. Chloe, wait. Liam called out, dodging a cart of server equipment. She didn't wait. She hit the elevator button frantically, slipping inside the moment the doors parted. As the steel doors closed, the last thing she saw was Liam's confused, hurt expression as he reached out for her, just a second too late. By the time she reached her car, she was already crying. She pulled out her phone and sent a single rigid text. Invoice delivered to your office. So glad the pitch went well, and you got your life's work back. I think it's best we keep things strictly professional from here on out. Have a great, highly optimized life, Liam. She blocked his number, put the car in drive, and drove back to her messy, chaotic reality. Chapter 13. Chloe was 3 days into a severe depressive episode and halfway through stress crocheting a pastel pink halter top out of incredibly soft baby wool. Her living room looked like a craft store had exploded. Skeins of yarn in various cozy, muted shades of cream and rose were tangled around the legs of her coffee table. At the center of the chaos sat Chloe, furiously looping stitches with her crochet hook, wearing sweatpants she hadn't changed out of since Tuesday. Sitting across from her on the only cleared-off patch of the armchair was her cousin, Jenny, who was aggressively eating a carton of leftover pad thai and looking completely unimpressed. Let me get this straight, Jenny said, pointing her plastic fork at Chloe. You went on a wild, high-stakes heist with a gorgeous tech billionaire. You successfully recovered his life's work. You kissed him in a very expensive electric car. And then you blocked his number because his supervillain ex-business partner told you to. I didn't block him because Marcus told me to, Chloe muttered, violently yanking more pink baby wool from the skein. I blocked him because Marcus was right. Look around, Jenny. My life is a disaster zone. Liam's apartment is a minimalist sanctuary. He irons his denim. I have a junk drawer that contains exactly 3 dead batteries, a single chopstick, and an unpaid parking ticket from 2022. I am a biohazard to his perfectly optimized existence. You are an idiot, Jenny corrected gently, taking another bite of noodles. You organize things for a living. You gave him peace of mind. And if he really didn't care about you, he wouldn't have chased you through a literal hedge maze. He just needed his dog back. Chloe wailed, dropping her crochet hook into her lap. Before Jenny could offer another dose of much-needed tough love, a sharp, authoritative knock echoed on the apartment door. Chloe froze. Are you expecting someone? Unless my pad thai ordered a backup pad thai, no, Jenny said. Chloe reluctantly pushed herself off the floor. stepping over a rogue pile of yarn, and padded over to the door. She unlocked the deadbolt and pulled it open, fully expecting it to be her landlord asking about the rent she was currently 3 days late on. It wasn't her landlord. It was Liam Hayes. He was wearing a perfectly tailored navy suit, but his tie was slightly loosened, and his hair looked like he had been running his hands through it all morning. He looked breathtaking, exhausted, and incredibly determined. Chloe gasped, instinctively trying to hide the massive stain on her oversized sweatshirt. Liam. What? How did you find my address? You left an invoice at my office, Liam said, his voice dropping into that familiar, raspy register that made Chloe's knees weak. It had your business address on the letterhead, which, as it turns out, is also your residential address. He stepped past her, walking right into her apartment without waiting for an invitation. Chloe panicked. Liam, wait, don't come in here, it's a total mess. Liam stopped in the center of the living room. He looked at the mountain of pastel yarn. He looked at the 3 different iced latte cups on the windowsill. He looked at Jenny, who gave him a polite little wave with her fork. He took in the absolute, unadulterated chaos of Chloe's reality. And he didn't flinch. I fired Marcus, Liam announced, turning back to face Chloe. The venture capitalists fully funded the disaster relief API. I spun it off into a non-profit entity yesterday afternoon. And I permanently locked Marcus out of the company servers. He has absolutely no power over me, my code, or who I choose to spend my time with. Chloe stared at him, her heart hammering against her ribs. You fired him? I did, Liam confirmed, taking a step closer to her. And then I spent the last 3 days pacing around my penthouse. My perfectly sterile, immaculate, completely empty penthouse. He reached out, gently catching Chloe's hand. He ignored the fact that her fingers were covered in pink fuzz from her crochet project. I hate it, Chloe, Liam murmured, his dark eyes locking onto hers. I hate the silence. I hate how empty it is. I thought I needed total control to be happy, but all I actually want is the woman who threw my company into a Goodwill bin, and then hijacked my life to get it back. I don't care that your car is a biohazard. I don't care about the clutter. I need your chaotic energy. Jenny quietly stood up from the armchair. I'm just gonna go eat this in the hallway, she whispered, slipping out the front door and pulling it shut behind her. They were completely alone. I'm a disaster, Liam, Chloe whispered, though she didn't pull her hand away. I can't even balance my own checkbook. Harmonious Spaces is literally bankrupt. Good, Liam said, a slow, brilliant smile spreading across his face. Because I happen to have an opening for a permanent life partner. The pay is terrible, but the dental benefits are excellent. And I will let you ruthlessly eliminate any of my possessions you deem aesthetically offensive. Chloe let out a sound that was half sob, half laugh. Even the ceramic ducks? Especially the ceramic ducks. Chloe threw her arms around his neck, burying her face in the expensive wool of his suit jacket. Liam caught her by the waist, lifting her off her feet slightly as he kissed her. It was a kiss that tasted like relief, like a fresh start, and like absolute, harmonious chaos. Epilogue. 1 year later. The penthouse no longer echoed. Liam Hayes's once sterile, ultra-minimalist living room had undergone a severe, highly negotiated transformation. There was now a plush, cream-colored rug anchoring the space. A stack of slightly disorganized, pastel-colored hardcover books rested on the sleek glass coffee table, right next to a set of perfectly aligned coasters. And draped over the back of the pristine white sofa was a hand-crocheted blanket in a very specific, cozy shade of soft pink. It was the perfect compromise. Mostly clean but comfortably, undeniably lived in. Chloe stood at the kitchen island, humming to herself as she arranged a bouquet of fresh peonies in a vase. Her business, Harmonious Spaces, was thriving, mostly because she had finally learned to apply her own organizing principles to her taxes, and partly because her very first Google review was a glowing 5-star essay written by a billionaire tech CEO. The front door clicked open and Liam walked in. He looked exhausted, having just returned from a week-long deployment of the disaster relief API network in a storm-damaged region, but his face immediately broke into a wide smile when he saw her. I'm home, he said, dropping his sleek leather briefcase by the door. Welcome back, tech boy, Chloe beamed, abandoning the flowers to meet him halfway across the room. She threw her arms around his neck, and he kissed her, pulling her flush against his chest. I missed the chaos, he murmured against her hair. I kept it contained just for you, she promised, stepping back and pointing toward the kitchen counter. Though, the mailman did drop off a highly suspicious package with a return address from your mother in Florida. Liam groaned, running a hand over his face. What holiday is it? Arbor Day? Did she send me a ceramic tree? Only one way to find out, Chloe said, tossing him a box cutter. Liam sliced through the packing tape and pulled back the bubble wrap. He reached inside and slowly lifted out the newest addition to the Hayes family menagerie. It was a ceramic garden gnome. It stood nearly a foot tall, with a bulbous, brightly painted red nose, a terrifyingly cheerful grin, and a massive, hollow-looking pointed green hat. It was, without a doubt, the ugliest thing to ever cross the threshold of the penthouse. Wow, Chloe breathed, staring at it in awe. It's spectacular. It makes Sir Reginald look like the Mona Lisa. It's an atrocity against interior design, Liam agreed. So, into the back of a closet? Chloe asked playfully, reaching for a black contractor bag. She kept jokingly under the sink for just these occasions. Should I call the Goodwill truck? Actually, Liam said, a mischievous glint in his dark eyes. He carried the terrifyingly cheerful gnome over to his home office, a space that was still relatively minimalist, save for the framed photograph of the two of them covered in mud on a beach. Liam set the ceramic gnome squarely in the center of his sleek glass desk. Right there, Liam declared, admiring the sheer, jarring juxtaposition of the grotesque statue in the elegant room. I think he really ties the space together. Chloe laughed, leaning against the doorframe. You're getting soft, Hayes. Next thing you know, you're going to start leaving your charging cables uncoiled. Never, Liam said, walking back over to her and pulling her into his arms. But I have learned the value of a good disguise. For instance, my mother always insists these things are hollowed out to save on shipping weight. Aha, Chloe smiled, wrapping her arms around his waist. And, Liam murmured, kissing the tip of her nose. A hollow ceramic hat is the absolute perfect place to hide a very expensive, custom-cut diamond ring until I take you to dinner tonight. Chloe froze, her heart skipping a beat as his words registered. She looked over his shoulder at the ugly ceramic gnome, which suddenly looked a lot less like a monstrosity, and a lot more like the best thing she had ever seen. You didn't, she gasped, her eyes flying back to his. Liam just grinned, that brilliant, devastating smile that had ruined her for anyone else. Like you said, Chloe, I execute targeted acquisitions. Now go put some shoes on. We have a reservation to get to.